Before the galaxies took form, before time measured itself in cycles of light and darkness, there existed something that transcended all physical manifestation. This was not merely a concept or an abstract principle. It was the fundamental vibration from which everything springs forth. Jesus spoke of it with reverence and precision when he referred to the Logos, the divine utterance that continues to sustain every atom, every breath, every conscious moment in existence. Most people encounter the word Logos in Scripture and assume it simply means word in the conventional sense. Something spoken and then forgotten, evaporating into silence. But this interpretation barely scratches the surface of its profound reality. The Logos is not a word that fades. It is an eternal resonance, a living frequency that permeates every dimension of creation. It is the bridge between the formless divine intelligence and the formed universe we perceive with our senses. When Jesus declared, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God," he was revealing a cosmic truth that ancient mystics had protected for millennia. This was not poetry or metaphor. It was a precise description of how consciousness itself creates and maintains reality. The Logos is the original vibration, the primordial sound that carries within it the blueprint of all that exists and all that will ever exist. Edgar, the 20th century mystic who accessed profound spiritual knowledge through altered states of consciousness, confirmed what Jesus taught 2,000 years earlier. In his readings, he consistently described a fundamental frequency that operates at the intersection of spirit and matter. This vibration, he explained, is not random or chaotic. It responds directly to human consciousness. When an individual achieves inner purity and aligns their being with divine intention, they become capable of accessing and even wielding this creative force. This is where most spiritual teachings stop, leaving seekers with beautiful but ultimately impractical wisdom. But the truth about the Logos goes deeper, into territory that challenges everything we assume about the nature of reality. The Logos is not simply out there in some distant cosmic realm. It lives within you, coded into the very structure of your DNA, pulsing through your thoughts, resonating in every word you speak. Modern quantum physics has begun to catch up with what the ancient wisdom keepers always knew. Reality is fundamentally vibrational. At the subatomic level, nothing is truly solid. Everything oscillates, everything vibrates, everything sings its own unique frequency. Your body is not the dense, fixed object it appears to be. It is a symphony of vibrating energy fields, held together by invisible forces that science is only beginning to understand. The Logos is the conductor of this cosmic orchestra. It is the organizing principle that prevents the universe from collapsing into chaos. When you speak, you are not merely pushing air through your vocal cords. You are sending vibrations into the quantum field, waves of energy that interact with and potentially alter the fabric of reality itself. Most people speak unconsciously, their words scattered and powerless, because they are disconnected from the source vibration, the Logos that gives true creative authority to sound. Jesus understood this with perfect clarity. His words carried power not because of their volume or eloquence, but because they emerged from a consciousness fully aligned with the divine frequency. When he spoke healing into a paralyzed man or commanded a storm to cease, he was not performing magic tricks or violating natural laws. He was demonstrating what becomes possible when human consciousness remembers its divine origin and reconnects with the Logos, the creative vibration that spoke the universe into being and continues to sustain it moment by moment. The tragedy of human history is that we have forgotten this fundamental truth. We have been taught that we are separate from creation, passive observers in a universe that operates according to fixed, unchangeable laws. We have been conditioned to believe that our words are merely sounds, our thoughts merely electrical impulses in the brain, our intentions merely wishful thinking with no power to affect the world around us. But this is a devastating illusion, one that keeps humanity locked in cycles of suffering and powerlessness. The truth that Jesus lived and taught is that you are not separate from the creative force of the universe. You are an expression of it. The same Logos that formed galaxies and ignited stars flows through your being. The same vibration that organized chaos into cosmos resides in your consciousness, waiting to be awakened and directed with intention. When you pronounce words with awareness of their vibrational nature, when you speak from a place of inner alignment and purity, something remarkable happens. The Logos responds. Reality begins to reorganize itself around the frequency you are emitting. This is not mysticism divorced from practical application. It is the most practical knowledge you could ever possess, the key to transforming not just your inner experience, but the very circumstances of your external life. The ancient mystery schools understood this and guarded the knowledge carefully, knowing that in unconscious hands, the power of the Logos could be misused. Jesus brought this teaching into the open, but encoded it in parables and symbolic language that only those with ears to hear could truly understand. He spoke of seeds and soil, light and darkness, using the natural world as a mirror for spiritual principles that operate on every level of existence. The Logos is that seed, planted in your consciousness since before you were born, waiting for the right conditions to germinate and flourish. When you water it with attention, when you provide the sunlight of spiritual practice and the nutrients of genuine seeking, it begins to grow. And as it grows, your relationship with reality itself begins to transform. Every human soul enters this world carrying a divine inheritance that most never claim. It is not wealth, status, or any earthly possession. It is the capacity to create, to shape reality through the same power that brought the universe into existence. This is not metaphorical language or inspirational poetry. It is the literal truth about your nature as a spiritual being inhabiting a physical form. Edgar taught that the soul possesses memory that extends far beyond this single lifetime. Deep within your consciousness lies the imprint of your origin, the moment when you emerged from the divine source as an individualized expression of infinite creativity. In that original state, you knew the primordial sound, the sacred vibration that Jesus called the Logos. You understood instinctively how to wield this creative force because you were one with it, inseparable from its essence. But something happened in the soul's journey through matter and time. Layer by layer, lifetime after lifetime, the memory of this original power became obscured. Like a musical instrument slowly going out of tune, human consciousness drifted away from its divine frequency. The soul forgot the sacred sound, the verb that creates and transforms. This forgetting was not accidental. It was part of the soul's experiment with separation, its desire to experience itself as distinct from the source. Yet the capacity never disappeared. It merely went dormant, waiting beneath the accumulated debris of false beliefs, inherited traumas, and cultural conditioning. The creative power of the Logos remains encoded in every cell of your body, every layer of your consciousness, every subtle field of energy that comprises your being. You have never actually lost it. You have simply forgotten how to access it. Jesus recognized this tragedy of human amnesia and devoted his teaching to awakening people to their forgotten divinity. But he faced a challenge that every spiritual teacher confronts. How do you communicate ultimate truth to minds conditioned by limitation? How do you restore memory of infinite creative power to souls who have identified completely with their temporary, finite forms? His solution was brilliant and necessary. He could not simply announce the sacred sound to the masses. Such knowledge, given to unprepared consciousness, would be like handing explosives to children. The Logos responds to the quality of consciousness behind it. When spoken from ego, fear, or manipulation, it creates chaos and suffering. Only when emerging from a purified heart and aligned intention does it fulfill its divine purpose. So Jesus revealed the original sound to his closest disciples in secret, away from the crowds who sought miracles but not transformation. These were individuals who had prepared themselves through dedication, surrender, and the dissolution of ego. They had created within themselves the conditions necessary to receive and properly steward such profound knowledge. Edgar confirmed this in his readings, explaining that the original verb, the sound that creates, was never meant to be publicly proclaimed. It was transmitted soul to soul, teacher to student, in sacred moments of spiritual readiness. This was not elitism or gatekeeping. It was recognition that consciousness must be refined before it can safely and effectively wield the forces that shape reality. The original sound vibrates at a frequency that modern science is only beginning to detect. It pulses through light itself, organizing photons into coherent patterns. It resonates in the double helix of DNA, the molecular blueprint that constructs every living organism. It echoes in your thoughts before they crystallize into words, in the space between heartbeats, in the silence between breaths. To rediscover the Logos is not to learn something external to yourself. It is to remember what you have always been. It is to strip away the layers of false identity and reconnect with the God spark that animates your existence. This is why Jesus repeatedly taught, "The kingdom of God is within you." More. He was not speaking of some future heavenly realm. He was pointing to the divine creative power residing in your own consciousness, waiting to be recognized and activated. The process of rediscovering the Logos begins with understanding that you are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not even your life story. These are experiences flowing through you, but they are not the essence of who you are. Beneath all the mental noise and emotional turbulence lies a stillness, a presence, a consciousness that observes without judgment and creates without effort. This consciousness is your connection to the divine source. When you rest in this awareness, even for brief moments, you begin to vibrate at a higher frequency. Your thoughts become clearer, your emotions more balanced, your words more potent. You start to notice that reality responds to you differently, as if it recognizes something authentic in your presence that it cannot ignore. Edgar described this state as soul consciousness, the awareness that you are an eternal spiritual being temporarily expressing through a physical form. From this elevated perspective, the material world is not solid and fixed but fluid and responsive. Every situation, every relationship, every circumstance becomes malleable, capable of transformation through the application of aligned intention and vibrational frequency. The soul's creative power operates according to precise principles that both spiritual masters and quantum physicists are beginning to understand. Your consciousness emits a frequency that interacts with the quantum field of infinite possibility. When this frequency is coherent, when your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are aligned, you become a powerful creator. When it is incoherent, when you are torn by doubt, fear, and conflicting desires, your creative power scatters, producing chaotic or minimal results. Reactivating your connection to the Logos means achieving inner coherence. It means healing the fragmentation within your psyche so that your entire being vibrates as a unified field of creative intention. This is not achieved through intellectual understanding alone, but through dedicated spiritual practice, meditation, contemplation, conscious breathing, and above all, the cultivation of presence. Jesus demonstrated this unified consciousness in everything he did. His words healed because they emerged from complete alignment with divine truth. His presence transformed because he had dissolved the illusion of separation between himself and the source. When he said, "I and the Father are one," he was describing this state of perfect coherence where human and divine consciousness merge into a single creative force. You possess this same potential. The Logos sleeps within you, waiting for the moment when you turn your attention inward and recognize your true nature. In that recognition, the sacred sound begins to stir, to vibrate, to reclaim its rightful place as the organizing principle of your life and reality. For 2,000 years, humanity has lived under a carefully constructed veil of spiritual amnesia. The most transformative teaching that Jesus brought to this world, the knowledge of the creative Logos and how to wield it, was systematically obscured, hidden behind layers of doctrine, ritual, and institutional authority. This was not an accident of history or a natural erosion of knowledge over time. It was a deliberate concealment, motivated by the recognition that this truth returns power directly to the individual soul. Edgar spoke plainly about this suppression in his readings. He explained that the early church authorities understood the revolutionary implications of Jesus' core teaching. If every person could access the divine creative force within themselves, if they could speak reality into form through alignment with the Logos, what need would they have for intermediaries? What authority could any institution claim over a soul that had rediscovered its direct connection to the Source? The answer was clear. Such empowered individuals would be ungovernable by conventional religious structures. They would not require priests to mediate their relationship with the divine. They would not need elaborate hierarchies to tell them what to believe or how to pray. They would become, as Jesus intended, living expressions of divine consciousness, creators rather than supplicants, masters rather than servants. So the keepers of orthodoxy made a calculated decision. They preserved the story of Jesus while stripping away the practical methodology he taught for accessing the Logos. They kept the parables but removed the keys to decode them. They maintained the reverence for the word while ensuring that no one understood what the word actually was or how to speak it with creative power. The result was a religion about Jesus rather than the religion of Jesus, a system of beliefs and moral codes that pointed toward an external savior rather than awakening the Christ consciousness within each individual. Generation after generation grew up hearing that they were sinners in need of salvation, powerless except through faith in an external deity, dependent on institutional grace for any hope of divine connection. This theological framework served to keep humanity in a state of spiritual childhood, forever seeking but never finding, forever praying but never creating, forever hoping for divine intervention while remaining ignorant of their own divine nature. It was a masterful act of control, achieved not through violence or force, but through the strategic omission of essential knowledge. But Edgar also prophesied that this age of concealment would not last forever. He spoke of a coming era when human consciousness would evolve beyond the need for external authority, when souls would begin to remember spontaneously the truths that had been hidden from them. He called this the age of consciousness, the time when the Logos would return to human awareness, not through institutional permission, but through individual awakening. We are living in that prophesied time now. Around the world, people are experiencing spontaneous spiritual insights, unexpected moments of expanded awareness, sudden recognition of truths that feel ancient and familiar rather than new and foreign. These are not random occurrences. They are signs that the collective consciousness of humanity is reaching a threshold, approaching the frequency necessary to receive the knowledge that was withheld. The Logos is returning not as information downloaded from external sources, but as remembrance arising from within. Those who are ready find themselves drawn to practices that elevate their vibration. Meditation, breathwork, energy healing, and other modalities that would have been dismissed as heretical just decades ago. They begin to notice patterns in their lives that suggest reality is far more responsive to consciousness than they were taught to believe. These awakening souls start to experiment, often unconsciously at first, with the creative power of focused intention. They discover that when they speak from a place of inner clarity and emotional coherence, their words carry unusual weight. Circumstances shift, opportunities appear. Healing occurs in ways that conventional medicine cannot explain. They are rediscovering, through direct experience, what Jesus taught and what the institutional church worked so hard to conceal. The Logos is not merely a tool for manifesting personal desires or improving individual circumstances, though it certainly has those applications. Its true purpose is far more profound. It is the mechanism through which consciousness heals itself and transforms the world. When you speak the Logos with purity of heart, you are not imposing your will on reality. You are aligning with the divine will that seeks expression through you, allowing the creative intelligence of the universe to flow through your being and into manifestation. This is why Jesus emphasized again and again the importance of spiritual preparation before attempting to wield divine power. He taught his disciples to purify their hearts, to release attachment to ego-driven desires, to surrender their personal will to the higher will of the divine. Only from this state of inner alignment could they safely access and direct the Logos without creating harm or perpetuating illusion. Edgar confirmed that this same preparation is necessary today for anyone who wishes to reclaim their creative birthright. The Logos responds to the frequency of consciousness behind the words, not to the words themselves. You cannot manipulate reality through clever affirmations or positive thinking alone. True creative power emerges only when your entire being, mind, heart, body, and soul vibrates in harmony with divine truth. This is the great work of spiritual awakening, to heal the fractures within your consciousness, to dissolve the barriers between your human and divine nature, to become a clear channel through which the Logos can speak itself into form. It requires dedication, honesty, and willingness to face the shadows within yourself that distort the divine frequency trying to express through you. But the reward is beyond measure. As you purify your consciousness and align with the Logos, you discover that you are not a victim of circumstance or a puppet of fate. You are a co-creator with the divine, endowed with the same power that spoke the stars into existence. Your words become instruments of healing. Your presence becomes a catalyst for transformation. Your life becomes a living demonstration of what is possible when a human being remembers their true nature. The 2 millennia of silence are ending. The mystery of the lost Logos is being revealed, not through ancient texts or secret societies, but through the awakening of individual souls who are ready to receive it. You are part of this great remembering, this collective return to divine consciousness. The Logos has never been truly lost. It has only been waiting for you to remember that it lives within you, has always lived within you, and is calling you now to speak it forth with the full authority of your realized divinity. The age of powerless faith is passing. The age of conscious creation is dawning. And the key to this transformation is the same word that Jesus taught, the same vibration that Edgar confirmed, the same Logos that has been hidden in plain sight for 2,000 years, waiting for this exact moment when you would finally recognize it and claim it as your own. If this truth resonates with your soul, subscribe to this channel and become part of a community that is remembering its divine creative power. Share in the comments below. Have you experienced moments when your words seemed to carry unusual power, when reality shifted in response to your intention? Your story might be the catalyst that awakens another soul to their forgotten divinity. Together, we are bringing the Logos back into human consciousness, one awakened heart at a time.